Longman roundabout Inverness prompts caution. Maintenance on the M4 westbound at junction 42, Earlswood, requires diversions. A collision on the M1 northbound between junction 11 and 13 in Bedfordshire has closed all lanes. Meanwhile, one lane is closed on the M3 westbound between junction 5 and 6 due to an accident, with conditions expected by 10:30 tonight. And on the trains, major disruptions are reported on Avanti West Coast and cross-country services between Wolverhampton and Stafford and between Gloucester and Severn Tunnel Junction. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
the People's Channel?
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Jubes and Co. Coming up tonight, a new sanctions regime targeting people smugglers has been launched, asset freezing and a ban from Britain to boot. Do you think the smugglers will literally be shaking right now? I don't. And get this, imagine if you were borrowing money hand over fist just to stand still and then borrowing even more money to pay off the eye-watering interest on said borrowing. You would be thinking that you're in trouble, right? Well, welcome to the finances of Britain 2025. We are broke. And the rumours were true. A major reshuffle then when it comes to the Tory party. Will that turn things around for them? And just when you thought all was lost, I can bring you some sensible news for once. North Yorkshire Police have now been told that they cannot join pride marches when in uniform. Good. Well, we've got all of that and a lot more alongside me tonight. My panel, Michael Murphy, the Daily Telegraph columnist. I've got Matthew Larser, the former Labour advisor. And a special treat for you all, ladies and gents. Your favourite economist, Liam Halligan, is here to get into the absolute state of our finances. But before we do that, let's cross live and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Good evening, it's 1 minute past 6. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. Resident doctors in England have confirmed that they will be going ahead with industrial action this week, striking for 5 days from 7 a.m. on Friday. The British Medical Association said that Health Secretary Wes Streeting's letter to the committee lacked any substantive proposal on both pay and non-pay elements, leaving them with no choice but to continue with planned action. Wes Streeting has said resident doctors have recklessly and needlessly opted for strike action, adding that his focus was now on averting harm to patients and supporting NHS staff at work. The strike is set to end at 7 a.m. on Wednesday the 30th of July. Minister Michael Shanks spoke to GB News earlier.
I think it's a hugely serious decision that the unions have taken, and even at this late stage the Health Secretary has been very clear that engagement and postponing this strike action to have that further engagement should be the right steps that the union should take. A strike is not the right approach, and you see that the public don't back strike action in this case either. They've had a significant pay claim. The government's negotiated on the pay claim that is there at the moment. We think that is a fair offer, but we're willing, and the Health Secretary has said he's willing to talk, but only if the strike action is suspended. And of course, he will now be doing everything he can with colleagues across the NHS to hold together the important NHS services that people rely on, that we hope will not be put at risk by this strike. But of course, it puts intolerable pressure on a workforce already under pressure. And our ask is that those unions get back round the table and talk about what the next steps should be.
Elsewhere, Sir James Cleverly has returned to the Conservative Shadow Cabinet today as Shadow Housing Secretary. That's as leader Kemi Badenoch says she wants all of her heavy hitters on the front bench. Mr Cleverly will go up against Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner in his new role. He replaces Kevin Hollinrake, who moves to become Conservative Party chairman. In a statement, Mr Hollinrake said he was honoured to be appointed and that he'll work with the entire Conservative family. Other changes to the team include Nigel Huddleston moving to Shadow Culture Secretary and Stuart Andrew becoming Shadow Health Secretary after Edward Argar resigned the post earlier today due to a health scare. And a man accused of assaulting a police officer at Manchester Airport has denied his use of force was unlawful. Mohammed Ahmed is alleged to have used a, quote, high level of violence against PC Zachary Marsden after he and two female colleagues tried to arrest his brother Mohammed Fahir Amaz. Amaz is alleged to have assaulted PC Marsden and the two female officers. Both men from Rochdale deny the allegations. Our reporter Jack Carson has been in court for proceedings.
Cross-examination by the prosecution today, Mr Ahmad denied the suggestion that an injury to the side of his mother's face was caused by his own arm and elbow, telling jurors and the court that he believed that was caused by PC Marsden, who he said punched my mum in the face with a taser. Asked if there was anything about his behaviour that he would change, he replied no, and when later under re-examination by his own defence counsel he was asked did he believe that he was under attack, he replied absolutely. The trial here at Liverpool Crown Court continues.
Those are the latest GB News headlines. More from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to news alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Finally, here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3528 and €1.1504. The price of gold is £2,534.67 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's closed the day at 9,023 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Thank you very much for that. And hello, good evening to each and every one of you. I am Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes and Co with you till 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, I've got my panel, a new face tonight, Michael Murphy, who's the Daily Telegraph columnist. Alongside him, returning face, Matthew Laza, the former Labour advisor. Also, special treat. I brought you your favourite economist, Liam Halligan. Why? Because we need to have a conversation about the absolute state of our nation's finances. We are broke, ladies and gents. It's not looking good. You can join the conversation in all the usual ways. You can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me. Now, I really want to press pause because so much goes on in this world and in this country. Not all of it is good, I can tell you that. But one of the things that I really actually don't think gets enough focus and attention is the absolute dire state of our finances. Get this, last month alone, we borrowed £20.7 billion. We spent £16 billion or so on interest payments alone. It is an absolute shambles. Let's listen to our Chancellor and what she has to say about it.
As it is today, with the uncertainties, the geopolitical uncertainties, the trade uncertainties, but also the increase in the global issuance of government debt. Take the US or Germany, for example. All of those things are pushing up government bond yields, pushing up the cost of borrowing, including for the UK.
Liam Halligan, hello. What a treat to have you with us tonight. I mean, I read a piece that you'd written as well in the Telegraph about this, and you are really sounding alarm bells now, and you have been for a while, to give you credit for this. And, you know, you echo my concern that it's not been given enough attention and focus. Just tell us a little bit more about the dire state of our finances.
Well, the first thing I'd say, not just because my old friend Matthew Laza is here, is that Labour had a really terrible inheritance from the Tories. When Labour came into office in July 2024, the tax burden was already approaching a 70-year high, and the national debt was already approaching about 95% of GDP. But I'm afraid since then, Rachel Reeves has made the situation much, much worse. She's hiked tax rates a lot more, not least in her October budget. And as she has hiked tax rates, not least that national insurance increase for employers that many GB News viewers and listeners will know all about because it's led to a plunge in hiring, that has led to less national insurance revenue because there are fewer jobs. Hiking capital gains tax rates has led to less capital gains revenue because people aren't selling their assets. The economy is stalled by this high taxation, even higher tax rates that she's brought in. And now we're in a situation where, as you rightly said in your introduction, Dewbs, we're borrowing huge amounts of money. The national debt is 2.7 trillion. What does that mean? It means 42 grand for every person in the country. It's absolutely horrendous. And what's a billion? A billion is 1,000 million. A trillion is 1,000 billion. These are mind-blowing numbers. And we're now in the situation, it doesn't give me any pleasure to say this, it's a situation that was in part created by the Tories but made a lot worse by Labour, where of the money we're borrowing, and we borrowed £150 billion last year in the single financial year, of that 150 billion, 110 billion went paying interest on our previous debts, right? That's what economists call a Ponzi scheme. It's completely unsustainable. The political and media class, Labour, Tories, Reform, the whole lot of them, but particularly the government, have to get real because we are driving the economy over a cliff. We are heading for the summer of 1976. That wasn't just a long, hot summer when we were young and eating ice lollies. It was the time when the UK was bailed out by the International Monetary Fund. We went cap in hand. We are now heading for that same situation. And if there is that kind of fiscal crisis, it will be the poor that suffer most.
And what do you think then? Because Rachel Reeves is basically suggesting in lots of ways, nothing to see here, it's not really our fault, this is a global predicament, everyone's spending more on borrowing, everyone's borrowing more and spending more servicing that debt.
Last summer, I'd have said that was an accurate assessment, but I'm afraid the Chancellor must accept now and be seen to accept, so financial markets believe she's going to do something about it, that that's no longer the case. The UK is now an outlier. We have the highest borrowing costs of any country in the G7. We have the highest share of our national debt that is what we call index-linked. What does that mean? Strap yourself in, I'll explain it. What it means, Dewbs, is that is debt, that the amount of money the government must pay in interest on that debt goes up with inflation. So when we have an inflation spike, and inflation's at 3.6%, it's almost twice the Bank of England's target, and heading up, interest payments on that debt then go up with inflation. The UK is certainly an outlier here, and unless the government is seen to take action, and look, they're not going to cut spending. They can't even cut £5 billion off the rate of increase of the welfare bill. We saw that because the Labour left went completely nuts. What they have to show is that they can grow the economy, grow our way out of this problem. And you cannot grow the economy if your only answer to every single problem the country has is to tax people more and spend more government money, because now we're putting up tax rates to such an extent that the tax revenues are going down because growth and the economy is being crushed and so many wealthy people are leaving.
Matthew Laza, do you think the Labour Party, Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, they've got it in them to fix this mess?
Well, the answer is I hope so. I mean, the truth of the matter is I agree with quite a lot of what Liam says. I think that the whole of the political class hasn't taken this seriously enough. We are, as a country, living beyond our means. So the Tories did it, and we had the gall and the gumption of Mel Stride today to complaining about how much debt interest is costing when a huge amount of the bill that is now being serviced has run up over 14 years of the Tory government, not least during COVID, when it was spend higher than almost anybody else in the world. But the Labour government hasn't made some of the tough decisions it's going to need to make. It is going to have to change the welfare state. It is going to have to get more people into work. And it is going to have to realise that, or Labour backbenchers are going to have to realise that you just can't tax because, as Liam has said, there's a crossover point where that becomes self-defeating and you're not raising any extra money. But you are, in fact, putting fewer people in work. So I think Labour's got 4 years to make tough decisions, implement them and start seeing heading in the right direction. But
Michael, what do you think?
I think the problem with this current Labour cohort is that they were marinated in this sort of post-2020 era where they thought that austerity was a choice and that there is a magic money tree that you can just go and shake. And like as Liam said, there is a thing called the Laffer curve, which is actually a bit of a joke to a lot of Labour backbenchers. They don't really believe it exists.
There's no laughing matter. Whoa!
Yeah, there we go. You do get to a point where your tax base will shrink, and so if their only tools in their arsenal are to tax more or to borrow more, those are both cul-de-sacs that they're going to come crash into head first eventually.
But why is there this... Because, I mean, you hear all these conversations about wealth tax. I mean, I've lost count of how many people now are calling for this, Liam. And there doesn't seem to be this notion that actually, if you squeeze the wealthiest people, who, by the way, already contribute a huge amount of money, they will just leave. Well, I don't understand why that's not been grasped by people.
Because for ideological reasons, there are a lot of people in the Labour movement, most of the Labour backbenches, they're massive... group of MPs, many of whom they didn't expect to get into Parliament. They're not particularly intelligent people, a lot of them, I'm afraid. For them, it's ideological. It's just, oh, tax the rich, someone else will pay. They do think there's a magic money tree. They're completely economically illiterate. I'd like to tip my hat to Matthew. We are old mates. We've talked about politics over many years. He is a member of the Labour tribe. Signed up, man and boy, fair play. We need people who are party political in this country. I'm not that kind of person, but he is acknowledging here that there is a problem and it has got worse under Labour. The trouble is there aren't nearly enough people in the Labour movement and there aren't nearly enough people in Downing Street at the very highest level who understand these arguments the way Matthew Larser does, without wishing to,
make you blush,
embarrassing him. Look, when I was a young political correspondent in the mid and late 90s, and Tony Blair and Gordon Brown were coming into Downing Street, they surrounded themselves with top people from financial markets who got financial markets and who reassured the city, reassured investors around the world that Labour wasn't going to blow up the economy the way they did in the mid-70s. Because the previous Labour government we'd had to Tony Blair and Co did blow up the economy. We did have to have a bailout. Blair and even Brown, even though he's more of a big state guy than Blair, they did not blow up the economy because they made a lot of very careful financial decisions, certainly in the opening stages. And when they came into office, Dewbs, the national debt was only 35% of GDP. Guess what? Rachel Reeves comes into office, the national debt's 95% of GDP.
We balanced the budget, Liam.
Yeah, two and a half times more. And the first thing she does, massive amount of cash for her public sector mates in the trade unions, massive spending decisions, deeply ideological, no real understanding of financial markets, and that is why we are paying so much more to borrow.
Well, they're learning the lessons out there when it comes to the trade union stuff, because, of course, you'll be familiar with the fact that the resident doctors have said that they are indeed still going to continue that strike plan for Friday. But look, one of the things that caught my eye today was Ed Miliband. He was talking about Sizewell C. There was all of these lovely social media clips and whatever, and he's going on about how great Sizewell C is. But one of the things that never really got mentioned by him was the rise in the cost estimate. Sizewell C was estimated to cost about £20 billion. Today, it turns out that actually it's going to be more like £38 billion. I don't understand how this is allowed to happen in public infrastructure projects like this.
Yeah, there's a particular issue with nuclear power stations because basically the same's been happening all over the world. There's only about 2 companies that can build you a nuclear power station. One's owned by the French government, and they've had the same thing all over the world, partly because they've introduced new technologies. But you're absolutely right. And look, as a country, just look at the shambles that is HS2. Which is... I was going past Euston Station in London, where it's the other day, on the bus where it's meant to go in. They're still digging up the roads, but at the moment, moment, it's not going to go there for 20 years or something. It's just ludicrous. So I think the government has tried to get a grip on some things, like HS2, which the Tories just let run out of control, but it has a lot of other difficult decisions to make. You know, there are some signs. People like Wes Streeting, Health Secretary, said to the NHS, OK, one last big cash injection, but you've got to do a lot more bang for that extra buck. Let's see if it happens, because if it doesn't, I mean, frankly, it's not just the Labour Party is going to be in trouble, it's all of the political parties, and people like Reform chipping from the sidelines who won't let a penny be cut from anything because it might upset somebody.
Well, Starmageddon, that's what Richard Tice actually referred to this as. What's your thoughts on all these spiralling costs getting out of control? For me, it's so nonchalant, the way they kind of talk about Sizewell C, and it's doubled. And that's just today's estimate, by the way. I bet my bottom dollar will increase even more.
Well, if you've ever seen a Labour junior minister try and defend a costing on a particular project, particularly with Nick Ferrari, you see the level of mathematic brilliance that we're dealing with here. I think that, you know, these spiralling debts, the servicing of our debts and public services spending are upstream from almost every other problem that we face. And so unless we are able to get a hold on that, Starmer is able to reinstall some party discipline with the backbenchers. At the moment, he's playing whack-a-mole without a gavel. He's trying to catch up with you know, with these spiralling debts and has no means to do it. So I think unless they get a handle on that, then, you know, nothing that they do is going to be very effective.
Luke has said, look, Michelle, at the end of the day, you're talking about debt and you're talking about trillions. It's irrelevant because you can just print all the money that you need.
Well, if that was true, you know, Zimbabwe would be in the G7, you know. Argentina, before Milei, would have been a global economic power. I'm afraid, Luke, open a history book and use some common sense. If you could just print money, then the Roman Empire wouldn't have collapsed. This is madness. I know there are economists around that will say that, but that's because they're being paid by people to say that. And when it comes to public sector infrastructure projects, our public sector procurement, when we buy really big things like nuclear power stations and big train lines, I wouldn't say on national television it's corrupt, but it's deeply incompetent, and a lot of people have got their snouts in the trough in the public sector. And a lot of this technology is redundant before it already gets introduced. HS2 is complete nonsense. We should be using, you know, a fifth of the money for HS2 to enhance our existing rail network, you know, electrifying the fact there's almost no electric trains in the north of England. It's completely mad.
Tell me about it.
Completely, as you know well, and I know well from spending a lot of time in the north of England. And as for paying the French government to build these massive nuclear power stations, again, loads of public sector people with their noses in the trough, going from the civil service to the private sector and then back again. We've got the technology. There's a really world-class company in Derbyshire called Rolls-Royce that have invented these things, invented them called small modular reactors. You don't need to do these massive nuclear plants anymore. You roll out your small nuclear modular reactors. They're much, much smaller. That's how you provide the baseload energy. You don't then need to bung billions of pounds to the French government to build these things. But Whitehall won't adopt these new technologies.
Well, there you go. What do you make, then, to the state of the nation's finances? You've heard from these chaps here. Get your thoughts in as well. It's OK, though, because Kemi Badenoch, she's trying to build the shadow cabinet that's going to fix it all. Let's look at the reshuffle after the break.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Bishopsthorpe Road, it's on the verges of York city centre, and it was once crowned the best high street in Britain, but there is a new issue facing it, and that is?
The cost of parking. It's increased by, wait for it, 500%.
And they've done that overnight without consultation, right?
Yeah.
So it now costs £4.85 an hour. right? And what's that going to do? It's going to stop people visiting.
It's going to drive people away.
Anna, it's not easy to get around York, I have to say. You know, one road in, one road out type thing, congestion around the place. Yes, there's car parking spaces, but goodness me, I mean, this is obviously very, very controversial. These are the sort of taxes, indirect taxes that come on all of us. It's now going to cost us so much money just to get there, just to see there. Tell us more.
That's right, Eamon, and the City of York Council have introduced this to try and reduce congestion, to try and get more people on buses.
Extra things like this just mean that A, it's been unprepared, but also it just adds up, and it then stops you from doing other things. And then, you know, for people that haven't got enough money to eat and to, you know, to look after their kids and things, I think it's disgusting, to be honest.
Thank you for speaking with us this morning, Karen. Really appreciate it. The council say that they are going to review these charges. They're going to look at them every 3, 6 and 9 months and start engaging with the local community to just see how fair these prices are.
OK, Anna Riley.
Where are you parked this morning, Anna?
We're parked here, £22.50 it's cost us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, everybody. Michelle Dewberry, Jubes and Co. Till 7. Michael Murphy. Is it Murphy or Murphy?
Murphy.
Murphy. There you go. New face, Telegraph journalist. And alongside him, I've got Matthew Laza. Welcome back to both of you. Look, lots of comments on the state of the nation's finances. I've got to say, I'll sum it all up by saying not many of you feel optimistic about the future of our purse strings. I can tell you that. But anyway, look, let's see whether or not over in the Tories, they think that they can come up with the top team that shall fix it, because, of course, there's been many rumours about whether or not Kemi Badenoch is going to do a reshuffle. Well, now we know, yes, she is. You've got Sir James Cleverly. I've got to say, actually, I think that he was the biggest name, really. He's going to be brought back to the front bench as Shadow Housing Secretary, Kevin Hollinrake as the chairman. I mean, the big name everyone's really watching is Robert Jenrick, see what happens there. But this whole reshuffle, is that going to solve the Tories' woes, do you think?
I don't think that James Cleverly is the knight in shining armour that's going to swoop in and be a silver bullet for the Tories' problems. I mean, he's a Tory wet. He's against leaving the ECHR, which is a policy that's now getting some momentum with Reform and the Tories. He has, warned against people being drawn to Farage-style populism, just as the Tories are hemorrhaging votes to exactly that type of populism. He is, he's warned against hyperbole around mass migration, when that's clearly one of the most salient issues with the public at the moment. So I don't see him as a particularly competent person. He's kind of like yesterday's man in a way.
Oh, you're a harsh man. I've got to say as well, one of the things that James says is that the Tories shouldn't try to out-reform reform. Do you agree with that?
I would say that that's sort of case by case. On immigration, Farage has already said, that he expects people like Robert Jenrick to start outflanking him, and I think that would be a colossal error if the if the Conservatives didn't take that initiative, because reform, the reason for its existence is really to redress public anxiety around immigration and things that have been kicked down the road by successive Tory governments.
Well, we'll come on to that anxiety in a minute, because there's been lots of warnings about so-called tinderbox Britain. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. But James Cleverly v Angela Rayner, is this A good
Well, I don't think it's going to set politics alight. I mean, I don't think it's going to... I mean, look, James Cleverly's a very nice chap. As Nigel Farage said earlier, I don't think he's got the thrusting policy programme as Shadow Housing Secretary to change the Tories' direction. And I think, as you were saying, it absolutely potentially brings in conflict because he's obviously a kind of traditional Tory centrist, whereas much of the party wants to move to the right. The problem is with the Tories, no matter how much you reshuffle the pack, you're not going to be easily forgiven for 14 years of failure, including on the key issues. No matter what people think about the Labour Party, and in some areas, I think the Labour Party hasn't delivered, but they still don't think that the Tories, have wiped the slate clean. And I think one thing about Jenrick, who it looks like he's staying where he was a Justice Secretary, is I think Cleverly's been brought in because people know that poor old Calamity Kemi's probably got until after the local elections and Scottish and Welsh elections all next May, and that after that there's going to be another leadership contest, and the kind of the traditional centre of the Tory party wants it to be James Cleverly. Obviously, Jenrick is trying to come up as the right candidate, and they're trying to set that up. So they're trying to keep him in, give him a bit of a profile lift, ready for a leadership election.
You know, I know it's a very peculiar thing. I went camping at the weekend. I didn't go to that swinger fest, though. I have to caveat that was not where I was.
Was it camping or glamping?
Camping.
OK.
Yeah.
Hardcore?
God, no, if you're going to go camping, you've got to do it properly. So, yeah, I was camping. Anyway, I was up north and I heard, as per usual, so many conversations from people there. You overhear things, people concerned, talking about so-called small boats, migrant ferries, all those kind of things. But when I came back to London then to do this show, obviously, I was in quite an upmarket London hotel. And I went to the bar there and I had these three ladies. They were older ladies, I don't know, so like early 60s maybe. And they seemed very well-to-do. And I was on the table next to them. And I was listening to, I mean, not that I'm a nosy Parker, but you can't help it when you're sitting on your own, can you? You can't help but overhear things. And those three ladies were all talking about channel crossings, and I thought, you know, this is so interesting for me that it is now taking place in well-to-do places, well-to-do people. This is not just an issue among the working class anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's sure a sign that the Tories are in very deep trouble, as are Labour, because these are, you know, the constituents that often have, you know, the most purchasing power, the most that both the Tories and Labour are trying to cater to. They, you know, they make the most noise often. They're able to organise effectively. So once the angst spreads into the middle classes and the metropolitan areas, then you know, that's when it really takes over as a national conversation.
I think it certainly has. But what do you do about that national conversation? It's all right, everybody, because Labour are going to introduce sanctions now. If I hear this phrase, smash the gangs, one more time, I'm just going to burst out laughing, I'm afraid, because I think it's absolutely farcical now. But anyway, they've got these new sanctions. They're going to look at freezing the assets of people smugglers, banning them from Britain. I mean, I don't actually think they're trying to smuggle themselves into Britain. But anyway, let's look at that. And also warnings that we are essentially going towards tinderbox Britain, some people suggesting that we're going to have a summer of riots. What do you think to that? I'll see you in a few minutes.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
It's going to stay sunny across much of southern Europe this week, increasingly hot in Greece, but rather windy at times for Portugal and the Canaries. It's often windy for the Canary Islands at this time of year, but it's even more so over the next few days. Likewise for Portugal. Plenty of sunshine, however, through Iberia, a lot of showers through the Pyrenees and southern France. Italy, largely fine across much of the country, but we've got the heat building in Greece, temperatures inland up to 43 Celsius.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Evening. Welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A messy picture again tomorrow. A lot of cloud, some sunny spells, and a few heavy showers, which may turn into thunderstorms across parts of the south. The pressure pattern is a messy mixture, flabby area of low pressure just sitting to the north of Scotland. That's helped to generate some lively downpours today. They're tending to fade away now, but more showers coming into Wales and southwest England through the night, also likely to affect the South Midlands. Might get woken up by a rumble of thunder here and there, but many places will become dry. There'll be some breaks in the cloud, temperatures holding up in the teens. On to Wednesday's detail, and as I said, it is still pretty messy, likely to start with outbreaks of rain over South Wales, parts of southern England, the South Midlands, also northwestern parts of Scotland, but probably through the central belt, southern Scotland, decent chance of a dry start, maybe even some sunshine here and there. A mixture of clouds and a few showers for Northern Ireland, but also perhaps some bright spells. And a brighter start for northeast England, parts of East Anglia also starting off with some sunshine. But in this zone over South Wales, southwest England, parts of the Midlands, a fair bit of cloud and some scattered heavy showers. And through the day, we are likely to see more showers developing, especially in southernmost counties of England, up into parts of East Anglia, where we could see a few slow-moving thunderstorms, dropping a lot of rain in just one or two locations, whereas, 5 miles away it may be completely dry. Not too many showers further north, decent chance of a drier day here. Temperatures about average, with some sunshine though it will feel quite warm. We should see a bit more sunshine on Thursday and not as many showers. Having said that, still quite grey across parts of eastern England, with some outbreaks of rain coming in from the North Sea. The odd shower elsewhere, but it should be fairly light. As I said, many places looking dry on Thursday, a bit brighter as well, probably feeling a little warmer as well. Temperatures mostly high teens to low 20s.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A9 is closed northbound approaching Longmen roundabout at Inverness due to a road traffic incident. Motorists are advised to find alternative routes and expect longer journey times. The M3 westbound has one lane closed due to a collision between Junction 5 and Junction 6 in Hampshire. On the trains, Avanti West Coast is facing major disruption between Wolverhampton and Stafford. Cross Country also reports major disruption between Wolverhampton and Stafford, along with issues between Gloucester and Severn Tunnel Junction. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Jubes and Co with me, Michelle Dewberry. Alongside me I've got Michael Murphy, the Daily Telegraph columnist, and Matthew Laza, the former Labour advisor. Lots of you getting in touch. Joe says, Michelle, this will be James Cleverly's last term in office, if you ask me. You think he's going to lose his seat at the next election? Well, we shall see. James says there's only Kemi Badenoch that would think that returning James Cleverly is a good thing. James is suggesting it shows the Tories have learned absolutely nothing. You're a harsh man, James. Colin has said, Michelle, James Cleverly has been brought back in purely because Kemi Badenoch thinks he'll be able to take head-on Angela Rayner in the chamber. Well, you can keep your thoughts on that Tory reshuffle coming in, but for now, I want to talk about the absolute farce that we discuss often on this programme, the state of the Channel crossing as well. Labour have been talking about smashing the gangs, and we make of that slogan what you will, but today they've announced sanctions, ladies and gents. Oh, they're talking tough. Travel bans, asset freezes, you name it. Let's take a listen to our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer.
I was chief prosecutor for 5 years, and one of the things that I learned then was if you're going to smash a gang that's driven by money, follow the money. And that's why, in addition to all the other work we're doing here, today we're introducing a regime, a sanctions regime.
Oh, I can hear the knees knocking of all those people smugglers right now as they watch that. I've got to tell you, though, did you watch GB News last night? Our very own Patrick Christys. Maybe he should be hired as some kind of advisor as to what to do about these things, because he don't mess around. He took himself off to Calais. He managed to track down people smugglers single-handedly. Take a watch.
You are a human trafficker, aren't you?
Are there?
Yes. Why are you bringing people illegally to Britain?
Go.
Why are you bringing people illegally to Britain? So if you have a look quickly, just quickly, right?
That was a really interesting programme last night, I've got to say. And he went to one of these camps. Well, anyway, after that expose, the police apparently in France went over there and closed some of that stuff down. Michael, what do you think to this? Do you believe that this regime, the sanctions regime, will have any impact at all?
Well, it's reassuring that Patrick Christys is picking up the slack for our border force. That's But no, I think that this is very much a sort of band-aid on the problem. It will raise the costs of doing business for them somewhat, I would imagine. But I doubt these people are waltzing into Barclays Bank and getting cash withdrawals or doing much legit on-the-books business in the UK that is actually going to be affected by these sanctions. I'd say that if you want to raise the cost of doing business for these gangs to an intolerable level, you have to basically prevent anybody from who arrives here illegally from being able to claim asylum in the first place. You need a 100% rejection rate of anybody who takes an illegal route into this country, and then overnight the business model is broken, because people aren't going to be forking out thousands of pounds to people smugglers if they know that the journey is going to be a dead end, and these people smugglers will have to start looking elsewhere for where they're going to take their clients.
Matthew Lazar?
So I think they're a useful set of things to bring in. You're absolutely right. These are not always people who are doing it in the kind of traditional banking system. The idea is to target the sort of underground money transfer system, or the sort of grey market money transfer system that is used as much as the state can. But it is a step in the right direction. But it is a step. It is not the end of the journey. And all politicians have got to realise, as you were saying before the break, Michelle, that the nation has had enough. All different parts of the nation have had enough of the Channel migrant crisis, and the Tories nor Labour have yet stopped the flow of people coming across the Channel. I think the key actually lies where Patrick was. It lies in France as well as here, and it lies in enforcement action on the gangs, which is why Starmer's put an emphasis on working together with police around Europe. He had lots of pictures of him smiling at Europol, the European Police Organisation headquarters, promised us cooperation. We've got to see results in terms of the numbers coming down, but I think ultimately something is going to have to happen here as well. But it's interesting how whether a Labour government is going to realise that it has to get tough, as it were, beyond what its natural instincts might be on things like the ECHR, etc. Maybe reshuffle is overdue, not of the Tory front bench, but inside the government, and the Attorney General, who, as we know, seems to put the ECHR above all else, needs to go.
Well, I've got to tell you, many of you've had enough of this a long time ago, because it's your communities that these kind of things have actually been impacted. So it's quite nice, isn't it, to see the posher areas now finally cottoning on and playing catch-up and agreeing with some of the sentiments that you share. But anyway, there's been concerns now that this summer is going to see a new kind of round of riots, that apparently the country is a tinderbox. Angela Rayner, she was talking today about this, again suggesting that we are a tinderbox, that we need to try and do something to resolve all this stuff. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think the government are right to be concerned. This is their number one fear, that we could have a British spring of riots erupt across the country. And we know that once you have this in 2 or 3 places, like we've got now with Epping and Diss, the unrest currently going on there over migrant-related troubles, that this sort of thing can spread like wildfire. And so I think that the government are right to fear this. It's just not obvious how they can what they can do to prevent it.
Matthew?
Look, I think that Angela Rayner was right. This is clearly a very tense situation in many parts of the country. It's really interesting that this briefing says these are words that Angela Rayner is said to have delivered at Cabinet today, at the last Cabinet before the summer break. And I thought when I first read it, Angela's team must have been briefing this out. Actually, no, this is a number 10 operation. They've been absolutely clear to get this message out. So I think it is the government trying to show that it does understand just how tense things are in communities up and down the country. Frankly, one of the reasons it knows that is because Labour MPs in constituencies up and down the country will be reporting it. So look, I think it's absolutely right. When Tommy Robinson turns up and tries to exploit the situation, I think it's right to call him out. But I think it is also right, and actually in some ways it's a good thing that the government is happy that Angela's thoughts are out there. It's also a good thing to say that there are legitimate concerns in communities across the country. country. I mean, interestingly, in Dis, it seems to be that when they were moving housing families to single men, people thought that local people thought that was more concerning, perhaps based on experiences from elsewhere in the country. So, you know, what we can't have is just everything being dismissed as racist. Yes, call out racism when it happens. Call out people who are trying to exploit the situation when they try and do that.
Yeah, but
acknowledge people's legitimate concerns.
I mean, you've got to be a special kind of thick to take a hotel next to a school, literally a few minutes walking distance from a school, and pump it full of men from countries where you know that there's a higher prominence in terms of sexual offences and stuff like that among some of those communities. You literally have to be... I mean, it's almost mind-blowing that people would even consider doing these things because it is so thick. That is the only word that I can come up with.
I don't disagree with you.
And by the way, this is not just it. Ireland, for example, we're seeing all kinds of protests and frustrations in Ireland as well.
Yes, I mean, I've been reporting extensively on the situation over there. There's been about 500 organic protests like the ones we're seeing now in Epping and Dis. Across the country, and it's the same story where, you know, if you'll pardon my French, it's the Irish government telling the Irish people, you know, pissing on their leg and telling them it's raining. There seems to be very little understanding on both sides of the Irish Sea of the legitimate concerns that are fueling often local protests of old grandmothers, young girls, people, the sort of crowd now that we're seeing in Epping. In recent days. And so, you know, it's very easy for the government, like you said, Matthew, to sort of erect a boogeyman of the far right or Tommy Robinson or whoever it is, and nobody likes unpleasantness of that kind. But at the same time, you know, people are right to be concerned when they have, you know, a cohort of fighting-age males coming into their community, and they, you know, they don't know where they're from or very much about them at all, and whether they've been vetted for criminal backgrounds or anything like that. You'd be insane not to.
And they're stuck there for such a long time because the system is broken. Although Labour has slightly sped up the rate of the cases being dealt with, they often sit there because of these endless appeals, which I still have never quite understood why people appeal twice and 3 times. You know, you don't do that against a criminal conviction. You have kind of effectively one chance of appeal. So, yeah, I mean, and I think people have to understand this. These are small communities up and down the country. There may be one hotel on the high street that has been converted, and this is a very prominent situation right in the heart of your community. So the situation is unsustainable, and it's got to get a grip of, and I'm not sure anybody at the moment has the full answer.
I hope that a lot of these hotels go bust, by the way. I am a capitalist and I want businesses to prosper, but I look at these hotels who have just literally booted out wedding bookings that they had, booted out their staff. They've not had a single care, really, in many cases, for the people that they've employed, the reputations that they've built up, the communities in which they said they haven't been bothered. They've just been thinking about this all the time. So I do hope that when this whole sorry saga is over, that people actually remember those hotels. I've got to tell you, and by the way, I will never also understand, before I go to the break, those protesters who come all with the exact same signs. I'd love to know who's funding those signs, but they all turn up with those exact same signs. They stand, I won't be able to do it, they stand opposite mothers who are taking to the streets. The mothers are taking to the streets to try and protest because they want their children to feel safe. Totally understandable. And then opposite them, you've got these moronic people with their uniform, paid-for signs, essentially calling them far right of those people. Those counter-protesters got no shame. And if they're so concerned that all of these people are absolutely decent people, take one of them into your own home then. If you feel so strongly about providing refuge and all the rest of it, take one of them to live with your children. How about that as a solution? Anyway, look, there's lots to discuss after the break. I want to talk to you about police officers. I think this is great, this next story. I'll see you in 2.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GBNews family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around, a nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes and Co keeping you company till 7. Michael Murphy and Matthew Laza are alongside me. Now, look, we talk about this world going mad frequently, don't we? We have our moments to share between you and I at home. And we do, don't we? We have our heads in our hands often. But anyway, I've got to tell you this story. It made me smile, actually, because it finally feels that common sense is finally prevailing. I like this one. Because uniformed officers in North Yorkshire will be banned from taking part in Pride events. I like this story, Matt Laza, because I've found it so pathetic over recent years to see uniformed officers dancing Macarenas, police cars that have been transformed to genuinely look like clown cars that must be the laughingstock amongst criminals, like I don't know what. I found it just so out of touch with what policing should be in this country, and I feel delighted that officers will not be able to do this in their uniform on paid time. This, of course, by the way, comes from a High Court ruling. I think it was in Newcastle that actually deemed that the participation was unlawful. That's why they're all now panicking and backtracking and putting their own bans on.
So, look, I think that if we have less dad dancing pride parades from police officers, that's probably ultimately quite a good thing. I think that we need to just sort of think back to what happened is that we may think that the pendulum swung too far the other way. But when I was growing up, you know, as a young gay kid, and hearing the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester say that the AIDS crisis was, quote, homosexuals in a cesspool of their own making, unquote, there was clearly a lot of ground to the police to make up in terms of servicing everybody in the community, everybody who pays their taxes, and therefore deserves to be policed with respect and competence. On the other hand, so we saw sort of police turning up, as you say, you know, not just gay police officers.
I mean, look at this on the screen. It's pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is sort of somewhat unnecessary, what we're seeing on the screen now with the police officer in a video, sort of slightly oddly waving pride flags. Also, controversially, there would be a dispute about what version of the pride flag they should use. So I think, you know, on the other hand, there are a lot of people who actually don't like. There are some sort of more radical activists. They would now term themselves, because the word's trying to be reclaimed, as radical queer activists. Think Pride is a protest. It is inherently political, and therefore they don't want the police there or the fire service handing out key rings saying make sure to test your fire alarm, which you get on the other side. So I think there's a fine balance. I think it's right that if the kind of Association of Lesbian and Gay Police Officers wants to march, not in uniform but as a group, I think that's absolutely fine. I think the balance probably got out of hand. But let's not forget where we came from.
Your thoughts, Michael?
I would agree with that, Matthew. I mean, I think Pride and the Pride flags have become increasingly politicised in recent decades, and you notice there's new colours and new letters constantly added onto this constellation of different minority groups that we're supposed to be, placed at the forefront of public life and all of our concerns. But I would say that it's very disconcerting when you walk down Regent Street or you walk into a police station and the only sort of signalia you see is a pride flag with all of these different stripes meant to represent black people and trans people, because this comes with a whole package of political beliefs that are very controversial. And so, if the police are seen to be, taking a stance on something that most of the British public are in disagreement on, then it just further erodes trust in a police force that's widely already seen, I think, now as not tackling their core mandate, which is crime and bread and butter issues.
I think it's about getting the balance right. I mean, we've actually seen in political parties banned from pride parades across the country because of objections to what happened with the Supreme Court ruling on the trans issue. So actually, London Pride and most of the big ones around the country have said no to all political parties. Maybe that's the right thing in the sense that you haven't got any police and any political parties. It makes it a slightly different thing. I mean, I think it's a balance to get right. There are historic wrongs, and there are issues around how public services interact with the LGBT plus. I'll put all the letters into a plus community. I think when you go around a school, now I'm not a parent, but when I used to go around schools on visits with the Labour Party, you'd see, not as the only thing you saw, but you'd see amongst the different groups, there was a group to support kids in the sixth form who are coming out. Frankly, that would have been helpful to me as a 16 and 17-year-old. So I think it's about getting the balance right. It's not about pushing things down the throats of 4-year-olds.
Yeah, but they are pushing things down the throats of 4-year-olds. As a mum that's got a little boy, my son's at school this September, so I've been looking at primary schools and I've been absolutely shocked by how much pride stuff is in reception. I'm talking reception, 4-year-old children. That is so unnecessary. I find it's some kind of indoctrination. All 4-year-olds need to know is families look different.
Absolutely.
Families look different. Some people have two mums, some people have two dads, some people don't have a mum.
But Michelle, when I was growing up, that was the people who tried to just introduce some families have two dads, some have family of two mums. I was a single parent family. Even that was exotic. We didn't have that. Maybe we've gone too far the other way, but let's make sure we don't go back, we don't turn the clock too far back.
Well, I've got to say, I don't think there's any maybe about it. And anyway, I thought Pride Month was supposed to be in June, so why is all this Pride stuff still...
Pride Summer.
Well, yeah, but what...
Mission creep.
Pride Summer, and then we have Remembrance Day, for example. I think we've got some of our priorities wrong in this country. But anyway, what do I know? All views are welcome, and I'm sure you'll have very strong ones at home. But look, that is all we've got time for tonight. Thank you to our new face, Michael. You've been very welcome tonight. To returning face Matthew as well. Most importantly, though, thank you to each and every single one of you at home for spending your last hour with me. I appreciate it, and I'll see you tomorrow night.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A messy picture again tomorrow. A lot of cloud, some sunny spells and a few heavy showers, which may turn into thunderstorms across parts of the south. The pressure pattern is a messy mixture, flabby area of low pressure just sitting to the north of Scotland. That's helped to generate some lively downpours today. They're tending to fade away now, but more showers coming into Wales and southwest England through the night, also likely to affect the South Midlands. might get woken up by a rumble of thunder here and there. But many places will become dry. There'll be some breaks in the cloud, temperatures holding up in the teens. On to Wednesday's detail, and as I said, it is still pretty messy, likely to start with outbreaks of rain over South Wales, parts of southern England, the South Midlands, also northwestern parts of Scotland, but probably through the central belt, southern Scotland, decent chance of a dry start, maybe even some sunshine here and there. A mixture of clouds and a few showers for Northern Ireland, but also perhaps some bright spells, and a brighter start for North East England. But in this zone over South Wales, South West England, parts of the Midlands, a fair bit of cloud and some scattered heavy showers. And through the day, we are likely to see more showers developing, especially in southernmost counties of England, up into parts of East Anglia, where we could see a few slow-moving thunderstorms, dropping a lot of rain in just one or two locations, whereas 5 miles away it may be completely dry. Not too many showers further north, decent chance of a drier day here. Temperatures about average, with some sunshine though it will feel quite warm. We should see a bit more